All right, by now we all know classes are back in session and the first school year is here where Michigan has a new cyberbullying law. It's in effect and we need to know what parents need to know to tell their kids. Clarence Doss is here to break down the new law. So what actually is cyberbullying? What constitutes it by law?
Well, we just as a state passed a new law last spring targeting the school year, which basically says any repeated form of harassment on the internet or what they call a public media forum is cyberbullying. We couldn't prosecute these things before. We couldn't really take people to task until there was a death of a young girl in Michigan who caused someone to die by suicide essentially because of cyberbullying. So the state said that any repeated harassment done online, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, or any kind of social media app, is now legally cyberbullying.
Okay, so I'm sure we document it when we go to the schools, but you probably have to document it pretty accurately and stringently in order to bring it to a lawyer, actually be prosecuted, right? Well,
now the law caught up to that because what the law says is it can be password protected or not password protected. So what they're basically saying is you can't hide behind your Facebook account or your Instagram account anymore. If it's on the internet, it can be pulled from an IP server, it can be pulled from the company. There's no restrictions anymore to being able to prosecute somebody.
Okay, so you mentioned Facebook, you mentioned Instagram. What else is this covered under?
It's really any form of technology that uses the internet. So that means any social media app that you have. It does include texting, meaning if you're texting on a phone and it's going into the public, that counts.
Wow.
And it also means discussion boards, things that not a lot of people see nowadays, but people used to use when I was growing up. That's still considered cyberbullying.
Wow, okay, so what's the school's responsibility in this?
Well, schools now, as of a couple years ago, have a responsibility to take specific steps to monitor cyberbullying. And so they have to, for example, educate about bullying. They have to, if they get a report of bullying in school, they have to actually take corrective action. And superintendents of the state are required to provide annual reports about instances of bullying. So there have been significant steps in that direction.
So I'm assuming in the past a lot of students might have not been afraid about penalties, maybe a slap on the wrist, detention, but this offers up some serious consequences, right?
It's a crime now. In fact, the first time you do it, it's a misdemeanor. And if you do it repeatedly, it's a felony. And if somebody, in fact, gets hurt when you're doing it, it's a 15-year felony. So it is pretty serious. The court systems are designed to rehabilitate kids, and that would be the goal here, to get kids punished in a certain way for doing it, but to not destroy their entire life, to teach them a lesson.
Well, right. So what do parents say to their children? Because you want to scare them enough so that they don't do it and they know it's real. But then also, you know, in the law, we don't want to ruin the rest of their lives because they made a mistake as a child, right?
Well, I think everything starts at home, and most educators will tell you that they want to teach their kids basic communication values. If you can communicate this way in person, you should communicate this way online. That's the basic rule. Plus, having parental control over computers and phones and things like that is still an important thing in terms of monitoring this kind of stuff.
Right, to make sure your kids are not being bullied and to make sure your kids are not the bully as well. A lot of changes since we were back in school, but good advice to know. Clarence Doss, thank you so much for joining us.